There's a verse in the Bible that 99% of Christians read the wrong way, and that misunderstanding is costing countless people their spiritual protection. Today you're going to see what Jesus actually meant when he talked about keeping your light burning, and why this goes far deeper than being a good person or telling others about God. Have you ever wondered why, even though you pray every day, you still feel your energy draining? Why, despite seeking the light, something invisible seems to keep blowing out your inner flame from the inside? Let me share a moment that completely changed the way I see spiritual protection. Picture someone close to you, maybe someone just like you, who does everything right. They pray, read the Bible, go to church, or practice their spiritual routine, try to be better, help those in need. But inside, they live exhausted, constantly fighting something they can't identify. One day, in a moment of honesty, this person breaks down and says, "I can't do this anymore. It feels like the more I seek the light, the more something tries to shut me down." When I heard that, something clicked deeply. There's a massive blind spot in the spiritual life of millions of sincere people. That day, almost like an inner prompting, the passage from Matthew 5:14-16 came to mind, where Jesus says, "You are the light of the world." Most people stop right there and interpret it as, "I need to preach to others. I need to evangelize." But Jesus goes on to talk about not hiding a lamp, not placing it under a bowl, but positioning it where it can illuminate the whole house. There's a forgotten key here. He's not only talking about visibility, but about positioning, protection, and awareness of what can extinguish your light. Most people read it as a push to do more, when it's also a warning to guard what you've already received. The problem is that almost no one was taught to read this text as a strategy for spiritual protection. It's usually framed as responsibility, mission, obligation. So people try to shine outward while they're internally exposed and vulnerable. They give and give, they drain themselves, they try to carry everyone, but they never learned how to shield their own flame. It's like placing a candle in the middle of a windstorm, then blaming yourself when the flame won't stay steady. And in 2026, this becomes even more critical, because spiritually, it's a year of transition, intensifying energies, more visible external and internal conflicts, a period where whatever is fragile tends to crack, and whatever is strong tends to solidify. If you look around, people talk about spirituality more than ever, yet more people than ever feel spiritually exhausted. We hear growing reports of people who pray, meditate, do therapy, study, seek God, and still end the day feeling drained, as if they've fought an invisible battle. They say things like, "I don't know where this exhaustion comes from. It feels like life is sucking the energy out of me. I seek God, but I still feel empty." This isn't a lack of faith, effort, or moral strength. It's a lack of understanding about a principle Jesus lived every single day, one that's been lost, diluted into religious cliches and a surface-level spirituality. Through my own journey, watching these wounds repeat themselves in sincere people, a question began to rise. Maybe it has risen in you too. If Jesus called us light, why do so many believers feel burned out inside? The answer emerged when I realized he never spoke only about lighting the lamp, but also about where to place it, how not to hide it, and how not to leave it exposed to anything that comes along. Most people learn to pray and ask for protection, but not to build protection, and this construction is what almost nobody explains clearly and practically. Pay attention to this. The secret you're about to discover has nothing to do with praying more, meditating for hours, or buying mystical objects, hoping they'll do the work for you. It's not about crystals, special incenses, or repeating memorized phrases like magic codes. It's not about becoming a rigid religious perfectionist. It's about something Jesus carried within him, an inner state of awareness and presence he cultivated daily, one that made his light untouchable by any darkness around him. This video is an invitation to recognize that the protection of your light doesn't depend on luck, chance, or being strong all the time. It depends on understanding a spiritual principle hidden in Jesus' words and lifestyle, one most people skip over. As we go through the next sections, you'll see that there truly is a method, a step-by-step process that connects Scripture with universal spiritual wisdom on how to fortify your light during the hardest seasons. If what you've read so far feels true to you, if something inside you is saying, "This is what I've been needing," get ready to go deeper, because by the time this journey ends, you won't just have more information. You'll have a clear path so that in 2026, your light doesn't simply stay lit, it stays protected, stable, and increasingly radiant, even in the fiercest storms. Imagine your spiritual energy as a candle burning inside a room. The flame is there, alive, beautiful, but the room is full of invisible drafts. You can't see the wind, but you see the flame trembling, sometimes almost going out. That's how many people are living today, feeling like something unseen is blowing against their light all day long. And silently, they wonder, if I pray, if I seek God, why do I still feel so drained inside? The first thief of the light is what can be called relational energy vampirism. This isn't about demonizing people, it's about recognizing a pattern. There are relationships that consistently leave you smaller, heavier, tired, like every conversation takes a piece of your strength. It might be a friend who only shows up to unload, but is never available to listen. A family member steeped in drama, criticism, victimhood. Every time you try to help, you walk away exhausted. A coworker who dumps emotional weight on you, and you absorb it without noticing. These people aren't necessarily bad. Many are deeply wounded, but the effect is real. After being with them, your light feels dimmer. Jesus dealt with crowds, demands, broken people non-stop, and yet the Gospels reveal something subtle. He withdrew. He went to solitary places to pray, to restore himself, to recharge from within. This shows that even Christ in the flesh didn't live exposed all the time without boundaries. He understood the energetic cost of constant availability, and he intentionally preserved himself. Relationships without clear boundaries create leaks in your spiritual aura, tiny openings through which your vital energy escapes. Before you notice it, you're irritable, impatient, unmotivated to pray, thinking you're spiritually weak, when in reality you're spiritually unprotected. The second thief is environmental spiritual pollution. We live in an age where the soul is bombarded constantly. Bad news before breakfast, social media flooding you with comparison, envy, and silent competition. Violent, cynical, sarcastic content entering your eyes and ears as if it's just entertainment. Music that repeats themes of betrayal, scarcity, disrespect, emptiness, day after day. It all seems harmless, but it builds up like dust, settling on your inner light. One layer today, another tomorrow, and soon the shine is smothered. When Paul encourages us to focus on what is true, noble, pure, and lovely, he's not being moralistic, he's teaching spiritual filtering. What you dwell on, what you consume, the thoughts you repeat, all of it shapes the vibration of your inner field. If most of your day is soaked in complaints, tragedy, conflict, sarcasm, and low-frequency content, of course, your light trembles. It's not divine punishment, it's resonance. You amplify whatever you repeatedly align yourself with. The third thief is the most subtle. Ego disguised as spirituality. It's when the spiritual journey stops being a path to God and becomes a stage. A person starts sincerely seeking healing, connection, and growth. Over time, without noticing, they begin using their light as performance. They pray to be seen. They post everything they do to be praised. They talk about God as a way to feel spiritually superior. Spirituality becomes ego identity. I'm more conscious. I vibrate higher. I understand what others don't. This is what Jesus meant when he criticized those who practiced their faith to be admired. The problem wasn't prayer or fasting, it was the hidden motive, when ego takes center stage. The light that was once pure becomes artificial. Outwardly it looks bright, inwardly it's hollow, and artificial light protects no one. It exhausts you and requires constant maintenance because it depends on the approval of others. Gradually, the person who started seeking God ends up seeking validation, and the soul pays the price. These three thieves, draining relationships, toxic environments, and ego-driven spirituality, often work simultaneously. Their signs are unmistakable. Exhaustion that doesn't go away even when you sleep well, oversensitivity to small things, a desire to isolate, loss of joy in practices that once gave life, a sense of disconnection from your own essence, living on autopilot, merely reacting. People start doubting their faith, praying with guilt, pushing themselves harder, when the issue isn't effort, but lack of understanding about what's draining their light daily. There's also a widespread illusion, believing that small rituals performed without awareness guarantee protection. People light candles, burn herbs, use objects, recite memorized prayers, attend services, but continue exposing themselves to the same draining conversations, the same toxic content, the same ego patterns. It's like locking the front door while leaving all the windows wide open and tossing the key into the yard. From the outside, it looks like a protected house. Inside, everything is exposed. Without presence, truth, and internal alignment, no external gesture provides real protection. All of this happens because the spiritual realm responds to vibration, not labels. It doesn't matter if you call yourself Christian, spiritual, mystical, religious, or none of the above. If your routine, thoughts, relationships, and choices align with frequencies of fear, resentment, pride, or exhaustion, your light adapts accordingly. And a light accustomed to low vibration becomes small, fragile, and easy to extinguish. Once you understand this dynamic, everything changes, not through guilt, but through awareness. Instead of only asking God to protect you, you begin cooperating with that protection actively. Seeing these thieves isn't a reason for fear, it's an invitation to wake up. Because the moment you recognize what's draining your light, you reclaim your power of choice. You can decide which conversations to limit, which content to filter, which ego habits to dismantle. And it's exactly at that moment of clarity that the secret of inner fortitude starts making sense. What comes next will show you how to turn insight into a structure so strong that none of these thieves will have the same power over you again. The number one secret to keeping your spiritual light safe in 2026 is the conscious, daily construction of inner fortitude through active contemplative presence. It's not a single technique, a specific prayer, or a magical ritual. It's a way of living. It's choosing every day not to live on autopilot, but in spiritual vigilance, the very thing Jesus meant when he said, "Watch and pray." Watching is staying awake inside. Praying is keeping the heart connected to the source. When both operate together, a fortress rises within you, even if at first you barely notice it. Most people treat prayer as a separate moment. Now I pray, then I go back to normal life. Active contemplative presence flips this. It makes life itself the place of prayer. It's staying aware of God while you work, talk, drive, clean, respond to messages. It's as if part of your attention stays rooted in an inner sanctuary where the flame never goes out. You're not checked out, you're anchored. Outwardly you handle everything, inwardly you remain in a safe place. Jesus demonstrated this long before beginning his public ministry. He spent 40 days in the wilderness. This wasn't a dramatic test or punishment. It was deliberate construction of an impenetrable spiritual fortress. During that time, he shut out distractions, quieted noise, faced his inner challenges, and aligned himself deeply with the Father's will. When the tempter came, Jesus didn't panic, didn't argue emotionally, didn't hesitate. He answered from a place of inner certainty already established. Temptations crashed against the walls of that consciousness and found no opening. This connects with an ancient principle. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Guarding means more than caring gently. It means standing watch like a soldier on a wall. It is active protection. Everything you live, feel, decide, and experience comes from that center. If the heart is vulnerable, your entire life becomes vulnerable. If the heart is protected, everything coming from it gains strength. Inner fortress is essentially this watchful, awakened state. Many spiritual traditions describe the same reality differently. A philosopher-emperor spoke of the inner citadel, a mental space no one can invade without your permission. Eastern traditions speak of mindful presence that observes without being swallowed. All point to the same truth. There is a sacred place within you that can be trained not to merge with every thought, emotion, or stimulus. That place is the core of the fortress. To make this fortress more than a concept, imagine it built with 4 interconnected walls. The first wall is anchored consciousness. Without it, any wind knocks you over. Anchored consciousness is the ability to remember who you are, where your light comes from, and your true identity, even when everything around you screams the opposite. Jesus, sleeping in the boat during the storm, is the perfect image of this. The disciples panic at death's door. He stays at peace, not because he ignores danger, but because he knows the storm doesn't have final authority over his mission. Practically, anchoring begins with simple exercises repeated throughout the day. Conscious breathing, for example. With each inhale, remembering I am a child of the light. And with each exhale, releasing expectations, burdens, and energies that don't belong to you. It seems small, but as it becomes a habit, it trains your body and mind to return to center again and again. The fortress rises millimeter by millimeter until one day, in a chaotic situation, you realize you no longer react the way you used to. The second wall is sharpened spiritual discernment. Without discernment, you open the fortress door to anything. With discernment, you filter everything: thoughts, words, invitations, content, opportunities. This isn't fear-based, it's clarity. Before entering a conversation, you ask internally, does this nourish or drain my light? Before consuming content, accepting a proposal, stepping into an environment, you ask again. Over time, the check becomes instinctive. Something inside gives you a quiet yes or no. The third wall is constant intimate communion. This isn't about creating a perfect devotional routine, though those moments do matter. It's about making the whole day a thread of dialogue with God. Speaking silently in your heart, giving thanks for small things, asking guidance in simple decisions, noticing the divine in ordinary moments. Communion stops being an event and becomes atmosphere. When that happens, you don't need to call God in crisis. You simply realize he was already there. The fourth wall is clear, sacred purpose. A fortress exists to protect something precious. In your life, that something is the unique mission you carry. Jesus lived each day with clarity of purpose. He knew why he came, what he should do, and what he should not get distracted trying to fix. When you discover and honor your own calling, your life gains alignment. Things that once tempted you now look like distractions. Opportunities that once seemed exciting lose their pull because you see they lead you away from what truly matters. The fortress then protects not only your energy, but your direction. All of this becomes even more urgent in 2026 because collective emotions will run higher, conflicts more visible, transitions faster. Anyone who doesn't have internal structure will be swept from one extreme to the next by news cycles, crises, relationships, fears, expectations. This isn't a threat, it's a reality. Turbulent times require deeper roots. Without a fortress, the soul reacts to everything. With a fortress, the soul chooses its stance with clarity. A crucial understanding is that this protection doesn't mean blocking all external energies, as if you could live in a bubble. You can't. You'll still deal with difficult people, heavy environments, challenging information. The difference is that with an active fortress, your light stops resonating with what's incompatible. It's like tuning to a different frequency. The noise is still there, but it no longer finds a place to attach. What once knocked you down barely touches you. As this construction strengthens, something unexpected happens. Your light doesn't just stay protected, it expands. A protected heart isn't a closed heart. It's a heart safe enough to love more, serve more, show up wisely without losing itself. The fortress isn't a stone prison. It's an invisible field of strength that lets you be fully yourself without being swallowed by the world. That's why, when you understand this secret and practice it, you don't become isolated, you become more present than ever. In the next steps of this journey, you'll see how to bring all of this into your everyday routine. Simple, practical, without exaggeration or empty mysticism. What seems lofty will come down to daily choices, morning by morning, conversation by conversation, night by night. And it's exactly there, in the repeated small actions done with awareness, that the inner fortress becomes so real that no darkness in 2026 will be able to extinguish the light God placed within you. Now, let's turn everything you've learned into practices that actually fit into your daily life, without needing to become a monk, quit everything, or spend hours in isolation. Inner fortitude is built inside real life, not outside of it. The secret lies in strategic, intentional moments throughout the day. I'll break this into 4 cycles that work together to create constant protection and strengthening. The first cycle happens early in the morning, before the world rushes into your mind. Jesus rose before dawn to pray, not just as preference, but because there is something spiritually powerful about the first hours of the day. Your consciousness is still clear. You haven't been contaminated by outside noise, news, or conversations. If the first thing you do when you wake up is grab your phone, you've just handed over control of your day to algorithms, people's opinions, and agendas that aren't yours. So before any screens, any words, any outward movement, give 15 minutes to your inner life. In the first 5 minutes, just sit, breathe slowly, and acknowledge God's presence. You don't need many words. Something simple like, "Father, I'm here and you're here." This is grounding. In the next 5 minutes, speak protection over your day. Use your own words. But something like, "Lord, strengthen the walls of my inner fortress today. Let no energy contrary to your light enter my spiritual field. Give me discernment to recognize what comes from you and what doesn't. Keep me in peace even if everything around me becomes chaos." In the last 5 minutes, close your eyes and visualize a golden light expanding from your chest, forming a sphere around you, the presence of Christ within you. Nothing of low vibration penetrates it. This doesn't fix everything, but it sets your foundation. It's like lighting the first flame inside the fortress. The second cycle happens throughout the active day, between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. You won't stop for long meditations. You'll do quick 1-minute fortress checks every 3 hours. Pause for 60 seconds. Breathe deeply 3 times and ask internally, "Is my fortress still strong, or did something breach it?" If a conversation drained you, if someone dumped emotional weight on you, if a headline destabilized you, correct it immediately. Don't wait until the end of the day to do spiritual cleanup. Breathe again with intention and say internally, "I reinforce the walls now. I release what isn't mine. I return to center." This small gesture stops energetic bleeding before it becomes chronic. During difficult interactions, remember this image. You're watching from the watchtower, not fighting in the trench. Someone raises their voice, you observe from the tower. Someone tries to provoke you, you observe from the tower. This isn't cold detachment, it's strategic positioning. The fortress allows you to stay present without being invaded. Over time, what used to throw you off for days now affects you for minutes, and you recover quickly. That's discernment in action, recognizing the attack without opening the door. The third cycle happens in the evening, between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. This is the time for conscious cleansing. Jesus often withdrew to the mountain at day's end. You need your own mountain. It can be a corner of your home, a short walk, a few minutes in the car before going inside. What matters is having a space to process the day without interruption. Review what happened. Identify where your fortress was tested, not with guilt, but with clarity. That meeting drained me. Why? I let someone else's anxiety enter my field. I understand. Tomorrow I'll position myself differently. Visualize each challenge of the day, like arrows aimed at the fortress. Some were blocked. Some might have scratched the surface. Give thanks for the ones that were blocked. Learn from the ones that got through. Then perform the final cleansing. Release everyone who triggered or tested you. Let go of energies that stuck to you and don't belong in your field. A practical prayer. Everything that is not mine, I release it now. Everything that tried to cling to me today and is not from God, I let it go. Let it return to its source or dissolve in the light. This prevents emotional and spiritual residue from carrying into the next day. The fourth cycle happens before sleep. Sleep is spiritually vulnerable. You're shutting down conscious awareness. The body relaxes, defenses lower. So what you do right before closing your eyes matters. Instead of falling asleep with the TV on or scrolling through social media, end the day with a simple consecration. Heavenly Father, as my body rests, let my soul remain safe in your fortress. Let no disturbing dream, no nightmare, no interference enter. I cover my sleep in the protection of Jesus. Let me wake renewed, stronger, aligned with your light. Then rest, knowing you did your part. God handles the rest. Don't try mastering all 4 cycles at once. That leads to frustration and quitting. Start with the dawn ritual. Do it for 1 full week without skipping. Then add the 3-hour checks. Another week. Then add the evening cleansing. Then the nighttime consecration. In 30 days, this becomes natural. You don't think, you just do it. A fortress is built brick by brick, not all at once. Consistency beats intensity every time. Knowing the right path doesn't guarantee you'll walk it. There are pitfalls along the way that derail even sincere people. Here are the 4 most common mistakes that cause people to quit or, worse, believe they're protected when they're actually exposed. The first mistake is building spiritual fortitude without real foundation. Some people follow every technique, visualize light, declare protection, but have no genuine relationship with God. It's protocol without presence, mechanics without life. Jesus told the parable of the house built on sand. When the storm came, it collapsed. The issue wasn't the house itself, it was what lay beneath. A fortress without real connection to the source is a house of cards. It may look impressive for a while, may work superficially, but under real pressure, it crumbles. The remedy is simple and direct. Before techniques, cultivate relationship. Spend real time simply being with God, in silence, listening more than speaking. A fortress built on that foundation withstands any storm. The second mistake is confusing fortitude with rigidity. Some people try so hard to protect themselves that they become closed, controlling, afraid of anything unfamiliar. That's not spiritual strength. It's emotional prison disguised as discipline. Jesus had the strongest fortress ever, yet look how he lived. He ate with sinners, touched lepers, spoke with those society rejected, broke religious expectations when love required it. He wasn't afraid of contamination because his light was stronger than the environment. The correction, true fortitude makes you flexible, not rigid. A deeply rooted tree bends, a brittle branch snaps. Stay open to God moving in ways you didn't plan. The third mistake is using spiritual fortitude to inflate the ego. This is subtle and dangerous. Someone begins to feel superior. I'm protected. I'm more evolved. I vibrate higher. I can't mix with people like them. Spirituality becomes a pedestal. Paul warned that knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. If your fortress makes you look down on others, it stopped being spiritual. It became ego. The solution is painful honesty. Regularly ask yourself, is my strength helping me love better or just helping me feel better than others? If it's the second, stop and reset. Jesus, the strongest spiritually, washed feet. Remember that. The fourth mistake is dropping vigilance during peaceful seasons. When life is calm, many people relax completely. They skip the morning ritual, forget the checks, skip the cleansing. Everything's fine. I don't need this right now. This mistake costs the most later. Spiritual challenges don't strike when you're alert. They strike when you're off guard. The correction. Treat peaceful days as opportunities to strengthen the walls even more. Calm seasons aren't invitations to coast, they're invitations to prepare. The storms always return. How you fare when they do depends on what you built during the calm. How do you know all this is actually working in your life? Movements are meaningless without transformation. The good news is the signs are unmistakable. There are 6 clear markers that show your inner fortress is becoming real, not mystical abstractions, but actual changes in your daily experience. The first sign is inexplicable peace. You'll still face problems, bills, hard people, frustrations. Life won't magically change on the outside, but something inside you becomes unshakable. Situations that once threw you into anxiety now hit differently. You feel the challenge, you acknowledge the difficulty, but you're not pulled into the chaos. There's a quiet center in you nothing can touch. This isn't cold indifference, it's rooted confidence that regardless of what happens externally, there is a place within you untouched. And from that place, you respond with wisdom instead of panic. The second sign is rapid discernment. Before you entered any conversation, accepted any invitation, consumed any content, and only realized the damage afterward. Now, you sense things beforehand. It's like an inner alarm. This conversation is draining. This person needs boundaries. This environment isn't healthy for me right now. It's not harsh judgment, it's spiritual sensitivity. You begin recognizing instantly what strengthens or weakens your light. And that gives you power of choice. Do I engage, or do I protect my peace? This isn't selfishness, it's wise stewardship. The third sign is accelerated recovery. Before, one hard day could drain you for a week. One argument could keep you up for nights. One bad moment could send you spiraling. Now, even after heavy challenges, you bounce back more quickly than you ever did. Your fortress develops built-in regeneration. You wake refreshed, where before you'd wake still burdened. You finish the day with energy where before you'd collapse. This changes the entire quality of your life because you stop accumulating emotional and spiritual exhaustion. The fourth sign is the natural attraction of healthy people and the fading away of draining ones. Strong light attracts similar light. You'll notice grounded, spiritually mature, emotionally balanced people gravitating toward you. At the same time, those who once drained you, those who thrived on drama, chaos, emotional dumping, begin drifting away. Not because you pushed them, but because your vibration no longer feeds their patterns. Energy vampires feed on breaches. If you have none, They move on. It's not rejection, it's alignment. The fifth sign is expanded influence. The stronger your protection, the more your light reaches others. Jesus transformed rooms simply by entering them. His inner fortress was unshakable. He didn't absorb the environment, he shifted it. When your light is secure, you no longer hide to protect yourself. You shine publicly without fear of being extinguished. People begin asking, "What's different about you? How do you stay so calm?" And you have real answers, not theory, but lived experience. The sixth sign is increased divine synchronicity. As your inner fortress clears away static, God's voice becomes unmistakably clear. Internal noise quiets, confusion dissolves. You start receiving insights at the exact right moment. Doors open at precise times. Conversations happen exactly when you needed them. Your fortress acts like a clean spiritual antenna, receiving guidance without interference. These signs won't all appear at once. They emerge gradually, strengthened by daily practice. Maybe you'll notice peace first, then discernment, then fast recovery. Each sign is confirmation that your light is becoming stronger, safer, and more consistent. Celebrate each one. They prove you're building something real. We've reached this point together, identifying the thieves of light, understanding inner fortitude, grounding it in daily practice. But none of this matters unless you decide to act. Your life changes only when you make a deliberate choice to protect your light, rather than live at the mercy of everything around you. You now hold a secret that many seek for years without finding. The daily construction of inner fortitude through active contemplative presence isn't a pretty idea. It's a path. It's what Jesus lived. It's what Scripture reveals. It's what true spiritual wisdom affirms. The question is no longer, how do I protect myself in 2026? The question is, will I take responsibility to build this fortress every day, even on days I don't feel like it, even when no one is watching? Think honestly, what is the cost of remaining vulnerable? How many years have already been spent in spiritual exhaustion, repeated crises, emotional burnout cycles that seem to have a script of their own? How many times have you poured yourself out for people, situations, jobs, only to end empty, trying to gather the pieces of your soul? Jesus asked, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world yet lose his soul?" In your moment, it's this. What's the point of pursuing achievements, goals, status, productivity, if along the way your inner light remains unprotected, flickering on and off without ever stabilizing? Now look at the other side. The true investment required here is less than an hour a day, 15 minutes at dawn to anchor and protect, 1-minute checks throughout the day, a short evening cleansing, a nighttime surrender. Not an impossible demand, just a shift in priority. You already give far more time to social media, recurring worries, empty conversations. The question isn't whether you have time, it's whether you'll give time to what actually sustains your soul. If you commit to this process for the next 90 days, something deep will happen. Not instant magic, consistent transformation. Slowly, you'll notice yourself responding differently, resting better, setting boundaries with clarity, recovering faster, attracting better people, aligning with better opportunities. You'll look back and barely recognize the version of yourself that lived wide open, unprotected, calling that normal. Your light will no longer depend on the mood of others, the news, or the emotions that come and go. It will become steady, grounded, reliable. When you build your inner fortress, you're not just protecting yourself, you're clearing a path for others. Your children, if you have them, will learn from your posture. Friends and family will feel inspired by your peace. Even strangers will sense something different around you, like a quiet field of safety. You become, in practice, what Jesus declared, the light of the world. A city on a hill that cannot be hidden. not because you shout, but because you remain lit. So here's the final invitation. Begin tomorrow at dawn. Lay the first stone of your fortress. If you want to seal it, say it out loud or write it for yourself. I will build my inner fortress in 2026. That decision marks the shift. From there, remember daily. The greatest battle isn't against outside forces. It's against the temptation to neglect your own light. You are called to shine with strength, stability, and truth. The fortress makes that possible, and the building begins now.